These giant boulders and debris strewn across the Chalaya riverbed are a grim reminder of the perils of global warming fatally impacting the southern state of Kerala in India. In the early hours of July 30th, multiple landslides wiped out two villages in the Mundakai region of Wayanad district. Nearly 700 people died. More than 300 are still missing. In the 48 hours leading up to the morning of July 30th, the Mundakai region saw a staggering 572 millimeters of rainfall. Tucked between the Western Ghats on one side and the Deccan Plateau on the other, Wayanad boasts of a diverse natural ecosystem. This also, however, makes the region more vulnerable to climate change. In the last decade, Wayanad has witnessed an erratic monsoon season, triggering droughts in one part with floods and landslides in another. C.K. Vishnudas, director of the Wayanad-based private research institute, Hume Center for Ecology and Wildlife Biology, explains how weather patterns began changing in the last 10 plus years.
We started experiencing the change from 2010 onwards. For example, Wayanad actually used to receive a lot of rainfall, a very steady rainfall. We normally call it like a Nool Mara, in just like a thread line rainfall starting from June to maybe some end of September. But this pattern changed in 2010 onwards, where we started getting deficit rainfall like 20%, 30%. And in 2016 and 17, we got almost 50% deficit rainfall. Suddenly in 2018, we started heavy rainfall and floods. So the situation suddenly changed. But immediately in 2019, we got the same kind of rainfall in August 8 and 9, getting much more stronger landslides in the western part. So basically these are triggered by the climate change.
Local coffee farmer Jay Prakash has witnessed the dramatically changing climate of the region firsthand.
Climate change നമ്മളെ വളരെയധികം ബാധിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. കാരണം എനിക്ക് ചെറുപ്പകാലത്തുള്ള കൃഷിരീതിയെക്കുറിച്ചും നമുക്കറിയാം, അതെല്ലാം വളരെ കൃത്യമായിട്ടായിരുന്നു ഒരു കലണ്ടറിൽ മാർക്ക് ചെയ്ത പോലെ മഴ പെയ്യുന്നൊരു കാലം എൻ്റെയൊക്കെ ചെറുപ്പകാലത്തുണ്ടായിരുന്നു, സ്കൂളിൽ പോകുന്ന കാലത്ത്. പക്ഷേ ബിഫോർ 20 years ഐ തിങ്ക്, അതിന് ശേഷമാണ് ഈ കാലാവസ്ഥയിലുള്ള പ്രകടമായിട്ടുള്ള മാറ്റം നമുക്ക് കണ്ടു തുടങ്ങിയത്.
Perched on top of the Western Ghats, Wayanad is mostly a hilly district, also affected by the El Niño phenomenon. This means the rise in sea surface temperatures induces short but intense periods of rainfall.
The global warming induced changes in the sea surface temperature increase in Arabian Sea has contributed for creating more vertical cloud formation, and these clouds are approaching along with the monsoon into the Western Ghats. So wherever there are high steep mountains, there is an orographic lift of clouds from the base to the top of the mountain, and when it reaches like 2,300 meters, it starts precipitating in that particular area, leading to a longer cloud-burst event.
Which was the region where the landslide happened?
It is in the Paddy Mundakai region.
Following the disastrous landslide of 2019, Vishnudas and his team were tasked to survey and identify all landslide-prone areas in the district.
We mapped each and every location of Wayanad. There were landslides, mudslips, land subsidence, and all these events. So we got points from nearly 1,100 locations. So with this large data set, we ran a logistic regression model and came out with a landslide susceptibility map for the Wayanad. There we found that 41% of the mudslips happen behind the houses where people cut the hill and make their house, and 29% along the roadside where roads are made by cutting the hill slopes, and 3% actually happen only in the forest. So this data actually motivated us to look at from a different angle, where we use land fragmentation as an additional variable to predict a landslide susceptible areas.
So maybe someone can ask a question.
However, realizing that there was still no mechanism to predict when the next landslide might occur, the team, in collaboration with Cochin University, went on to develop a climate monitoring system. The aim was to be able to predict intense rainfall periods for a localized region based on data collected from locals.
In each of the grid, we installed rain gauges, and we identified local people from the villages, farmers, school teachers, and students, etc., etc. And every day, these farmers used to give rainfall data into a WhatsApp group that we created called Wayanad Weather Forecast. Then that will pass on to a GIS section, and the GIS section will make everyday analytics. So in Advanced Center for Atmospheric Research, they do run the climate models, various taking data from global database and looking at this, run on a computer. This is some kind of a supercomputer where you can run the model and come out with a very localized, forecast for the Wayanad district.
അത്തരത്തിലുള്ള സിസ്റ്റം നമുക്ക് ഇവിടെ ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ പറ്റുമോ? അതേപോലെ തന്നെ ഇനി നമ്മുടെ മല സേഫ് ആക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി നമുക്ക് എന്ത് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും?
The locals play an integral role in the functioning of this dynamic weather model. More than 400 residents are part of this WhatsApp community called the Wayanad Weather Forecast. Tasked with the responsibility of data collection, Jayaprakash is one of them. Every morning, he measures the rainfall in the gauge and shares the data on the group. By afternoon, he would have received a daily and weekly snapshot of rain forecasts across each grid location. The forecast provided by the Hume Center, Jayaprakash tells us, has been 75 to 80% accurate so far.
കാരണം കഴിഞ്ഞ ഡിസംബറിലായിരുന്നു തോന്നുന്നു മഴ പെയ്തിരുന്നു. കാരണം അത് നമ്മൾക്ക് ആ മുന്നറിയിപ്പ് കിട്ടിയത് കൊണ്ട് കാപ്പി പറിച്ച് നമുക്ക് തോട്ടത്തിൽ നിന്ന് ഡ്രൈയിങ് യാർഡിലേക്ക് എത്തിക്കുക എന്നുള്ള സംഗതികളൊക്കെ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുള്ളൊരു ടാസ്ക്കാണ്. അപ്പോൾ ഇതുകൊണ്ട് അതിനെ നമുക്ക് സമയം മാറ്റം വരുത്തിയിട്ട് സൗകര്യപ്രദമായ രീതിയിൽ ചെയ്യാനും ഈ വിവരങ്ങൾ മറ്റ് പ്ലാന്റേഴ്സിന് നമുക്ക് കൺവേ ചെയ്യാനും സാധിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്.
At the Hume Center, Program Coordinator Ranjini Iyer stresses on how cross-checking ground data is integral to the process.
Data updation is the major thing. We have to spend much time on that. There will be errors. Someone might have been typing and there will be some kind of error. So we have to cross-check that. We have to take every grid's data. Then only we can make it perfect that how much intensity was there in each grid.
The Wayanad weather forecast system has been operational for the last 3 years. So how did the July landslides go undetected, we ask? Tragically, it did not, Vishnu tells us. The team had in fact identified a cloudburst pattern predicting the high possibility of a landslide over the next 24 hours.
The 28th morning, there was heavy rainfall in that location, not in the other location. So almost 200 plus 300 plus 380 is occurred by the almost 36 hours. And rain was continuing. By the time we also got a photograph of the flow in the water. There was actually mud going through the river. So that is an indication that some kind of seepage is happening. Soil is discharging through the river. So this is an indication that minor landslide will start at that point.
The alerts sent out to the local administration and to the community went unheeded, according to Vishnu. This is one of the primary limitations of being a private research organization. He adds, a challenge they are hoping to overcome through their work as they earn the trust of more and more locals.
India is a country which has invested so much on rain forecasting, on weather forecasting for the farmers. We are a country which sent a satellite, which set up a satellite information center for agriculture weather forecasting way back in 1964. We were the first, the only one at that time. Then we are also one country which has a whole center for medium weather forecasting. There is a national center on medium weather forecasting sitting under the Ministry of Earth Sciences. Started in 1988, and the mission statement says that it is for the farmers of this country. And the entire system still doesn't tell you whether it's going to rain in my village, in my valley tomorrow or not.
Beneficiary and proponent of Hume's weather forecast model, Rajesh Krishnan is an ecologist turned organic farmer. In 2017, he started an agro-based company in Wayanad called TAPCo, a collective of small and marginal organic paddy farmers.
Paddy lands have a huge significance for the ecosystem here. It's not just about producing grains, it's also about conserving water, it's about conserving biodiversity, and it's also about maintaining a social fabric that was there before. And it has all disintegrated over the years because of a certain kind of farming that has been pushed into this location, into this place.
Rajesh and his collective are also part of the Wayanad weather forecast community. He believes a community-driven weather model like this one could be a game changer in climate preparedness for farmers.
When you start getting the medium range, which is 7 to 10 days voila information, you can decide your farm activities. You have decided your variety. Now you can decide on what date will I do tilling, on what date I do planting, what day I apply manure and all that, because especially when we are organic farmers, we use a lot of liquid manures for our crops, and if it rains heavily on the day when we are putting it, everything washes off to the nearest stream. So that becomes very important for the medium range farm activities. The short range one helps me decide, well, I have set my work plan ready, but tonight I can decide whether tomorrow I should call up the labourer and say that tomorrow maybe this is not happening because we have this rain forecast. And nowcasting helps while we are on the field. If you know that afternoon we are going to get heavy showers, we stop our work there.
Rajesh's company has even built a weather calendar to incentivize their paddy farmers to actively use the weather model. Wayanad's dynamic hyperlocal weather model is perhaps the first of its kind in India. According to Vishnu, the model could be replicated across the country. But the bigger challenge would be finding weather specialists willing to work in rural and climate volatile regions.
Our engage cost only some 500 to 600 rupees. But provided there should be an institute which is capable of analyzing and synthesizing this information in a very robust scientific way. That is the backbone.
Thanks for watching Eco India. If you like the story, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to Scroll.in on YouTube.